Welcome to episode 2 of Ugly Cry, where we answer the questions that you're afraid to ask about grief, loss, and death. I'm your host, Tess. I founded the service Upsprout to support grieving folks after my own experience with grief and loss, and then I started this podcast as a way to break through some of the isolation and silence around these topics. Today I'm talking with Eileen Hollis of Hollis Funeral Home, where she and her father work together as funeral directors. You can see her today on Instagram and TikTok trying to demystify this world. In one of her recent videos, Eileen asks her dad to open a casket he's standing next to. He looks dubiously at the camera, wearing bright blue glasses with rounded frames. He opens the coffin to find a tiny coffin inside. He and Eileen erupt into joyful laughter as he opens the tiny coffin and finds handfuls of mini chocolate bars inside. When I first asked Eileen about appearing on this podcast, I told her the topic would be of her choosing. I, like so many of us, have no insight into the mortuary world at all. Her first instinct was to talk about how it feels to be the next generation to carry on the funeral home. The desire to do a good job and be accepted by the community, coupled with thoughts of how it might be to lose her own father as she takes over the business. So, while Eileen has spoken really openly about the day-to-day of being a funeral director, I think here we get to explore another really important and very human side of this work. Can you start by giving some background on what a day in your life working in a mortuary is like?
Yeah. So typically these days during pandemic life, I wake up in the morning. I have to have coffee first before I talk to my dad at all. And he'll give me the daily update of what's happening. Maybe he went and made a removal in the middle of the night and I have to then, embalm them in the morning. So I kind of just get my ducks in a row and see what needs to be done and what's on our plate for that day or that week. And when somebody dies, we kind of figure out what type of service they're looking for, whether it's cremation or did they want a full traditional service with, a prepared body, and by prepared I mean embalmed and dressed and in a casket and very traditional. So once we figure out what they want, then we kind of go from there. So, if it's a cremation, both dad and I, our days could be a little more flexible because there's not too much to accomplish in a cremation. It's pretty cut and dry in terms of paperwork and yeah. And then if it's embalming or something like that with a traditional service, that's way more involved and can take more time. And you're kind of just trying to get everything accomplished in a day. On Friday, I knew I had one embalming in the morning, but as soon as I got there and got, suited up and ready to do that, Dad says, I have another embalming. So then I was in the embalming room for quite a while, taking care of two people, and who knows, a third and a fourth could have came. It really just depends on what people are doing. So life is unpredictable, but having those little bits of routine, I must have my coffee, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna take a shower, just some sort of a schedule is important for my brain.
And so when you say a removal, you're talking about that's when you go and pick up a body.
Yes. Yep. Removal equals removing a person from their place of death. So that can be at any hour of the day. He's had to wake up at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. But he does primarily most of the removals with a third party service. And and someday I'll also be doing that, like, primarily. So,
Yeah. What is that
yeah.
experience like? I mean, you're going into an unknown situation, probably family members around.
It's a very, very sensitive time, and if there's anything I've learned from funeral service is that you have to just be prepared for anything. You do not know what is going on inside that family's brain. They could be like a little bit, relieved that maybe that person crossed over, because maybe they were struggling like for a really long time. Or they could just be completely in shambles and really, really, really emotional. And so, with any of these cases, you have to tread lightly and see what their emotions are like, because if not, it could lead to some people thinking like you're disrespectful and stuff like that. So you just want to be mindful. At every family, you just have to be mindful, and it's kind of like you have to put on your, like, what version of me am I gonna be this for this funeral service and stuff. Like, am I allowed to be more like myself, and I can like joke around a little bit? Is this family like more relaxed, or are they just deep in their grief?
Mhm.
So there's a time and a place for everything.
And so to bring it to a personal level, when I first reached out to you, your immediate thought was that you've been balancing these two worlds of helping other families with their grief and their loss. And then you also have this other thought, which is about your own life and your relationship with your father and thinking about what that experience would be like for you.
Well, since the second grade, I've always been like thinking about my parents like passing away. But, because I learned about purgatory in Catholic school in the second grade, and that just scared me. And as I grew up, and I became a funeral director and stuff, I still think about these things every single day, but definitely in a new light. Like, I'm not as afraid of it, but with my specifically, I can get so existential and freaked out. Like the videos that I put out, I can freak myself out sometimes. And when I freak myself out, I'm like, where do I have the audacity to like be giving anyone this information? I'm going to be taking over a business. Like, that's a lot of pressure. So with my dad's eventual inevitable passing, I'm gonna be grieving 100% harder, because I will be taking care of him, his body, embalming his body, and doing all of that. But at the same time, then I'm gonna have to, be doing the transition to take over his business. And just like sometimes that pressure, I just think about it and I'm like, am I ready for all of that? Like, are people going to take to me well? Like, am I going to destroy the business? Like, there are just so many thoughts.
You mentioned something that I'm really curious about. You said that you would be embalming your dad's body. I'm a little bit surprised to hear that. It feels like,
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's a really scary thought if I was putting myself in that position. Is that something you and your dad talked about? Does that feel scary to you?
Um, it is a little bit, it, yes and no. Like, it's a little bit scary. Like, I don't know what I will do emotionally, like, when I get in there. But at the same time, it's a little bit comforting to know that he would be in my care, and that I can take like 5 hours if I need to embalm him, and like just cry on him if I needed
Yeah.
to, because that's my dad. And so yeah, it's really scary to think, what? Oh God, I'm gonna cry. It's really scary to think about like what life will be
Mm-hmm.
like without him. So it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't I would absolutely do that for him, because he's done that for His father, so
Really? It's a tradition.
my grandma was cremated and stuff, so he didn't have to do that for her. And like my mom, like she would rather be donated to science, so that makes me happy. But my dad, he always just is like, be strong, like, so I know that I'll be able to do it, but I'm absolutely just gonna cry like this, like I am. So,
Oh, yeah.
but I like do not ever shame myself for crying, because it's just, I tell everyone all the time, like, just release it, because I really do think that if you hold in and bottle up your emotions, that it just goes to other places in your body and like manifests into something else. We all deal with existential dread, and that's like what I really want like everyone to know, like to some degree.
So in time, as you've been in this business, I mean, your whole life, right, witnessed it or participated in this, you're in this death and loss space. I mean, you have been your whole life, right? Do you feel like you have a different perspective or understanding about death and that what that's like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not, I'm not afraid of the dead human body or anything like that. I think I have educated myself, like, you know, went to mortuary school, like always had this anxiety around death, but once I like really learned about it, it kind of made me make peace with it, I guess. Yeah, so definitely like educating the masses, uh and just like giving like peace of mind to others helps me too, like with my own like existential dread, and I just feel like we're all in it together. But I really love seeing like points of view from like hospice nurses too, like on TikTok, and the ones in the city of Syracuse who have seen these people reach out to their mom or some kind of like person that maybe visited them spiritually when they were close to death, and just like hearing those little experiences has given me a different point of view and just more a calming effect. I don't know.
Yeah. I relate too. I remember when I was young, actually my whole life too, I always pictured my own dad passing away and was always so afraid of it. I can remember laying in
Yeah.
bed and picturing the feeling and having my stomach feel like I was on a roller coaster even, where
Yep.
it's just your body feels that. It's a really
It flips.
curious thing. Yes, an actual like physical reaction.
I will say, it, you know what, working in death care, there are little things that I catch myself doing. Like, I study people's faces a lot more. Half because I'm like soaking in their beautiful face and I'm like, this is your face. And then half the time it's like, I want to analyze every bit of you just in case you die and I need to, like, you know, make you look exactly like yourself. There's even sometimes when I'll be laying in bed and my husband's asleep and I'll look at him and I'm just like, you are the most beautiful person to me with your crazy beard and your tarantula like mustache, because it's like really overgrown, and I just look at like every wrinkle in his face and every like freckle on his face, and I'm just analyzing faces all the time. But I also have deep anxiety about my husband Neil dying on me, and I guess I'm just a little more I'm more grateful for the people in my life, and I'm just happy that they're here. So this is getting deep.
Yep.
I was not expecting like to even get like as emotional as it is, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is such emotional stuff. I mean, thank you so much for sharing this emotional side of it.
Yeah, it's scary. Like, it's scary stuff, but it isn't, it doesn't have to be. But you know, the thoughts, like the reality of it all is overwhelming sometimes, and I just want people to know that like funeral directors get very overwhelmed too.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about it because a lot of people were like, funeral directors, they're desensitized. And I'm like, I don't think I'm desensitized. Just because I can work with a dead human body does not, I don't feel desensitized. I just feel very realistic about death and everything that like comes along with it.
Yeah. It's true that so many of us are in denial about death or confused about it. There's no space for that in your daily life, right? I mean, you're right there literally looking upon it every day.
Literally, like, I can come this close to someone's face, like,
Yes.
you know, you're doing cosmetizing their lips and stuff. It's just you do get like a little bit. Sometimes I can like jump out of my body and be like, whoa, like this is your life. Like you wanted to be a dancer on Broadway and here you are, a mortician.
Yeah, that's a drastic change. But it was what I've learned from other interviews and things that I've heard of yours are that it was a call of I want to keep my family business. It was so grounded in wanting to carry on those traditions.
Yep. Yep. My dad back in the 90s, he sold Hollis Funeral Home to a corporation called SCI, and you know, they treated him not the best and overworked him. But yeah, so he eventually like he bought it back because he was like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. Absolutely not. And so because when I heard that story and when I heard the legacy, like it's just they hurt him so much. So the fact that we're back up and doing better than ever is a huge reason why I just wanted to take over the business. And just like the house itself, like that Victorian home, I would just crumble if I saw it crumble. So I just really want to I just want to preserve everything and carry everything on and, you know, keep providing the best services that I can, just like, you know, my dad always has been doing for like 40 plus years.
Wow.
I don't even know like how long.
I can see why that would feel like a big deal, a lot of pressure.
It's a huge deal. My dad is like very well known in the community, and everyone really respects him and loves him and thinks he's just the most like adorable little dude ever, and he is. So it's incredibly big shoes to fill, and like a lot of this self-doubt is kind of silly. This whole like a lot of the community in Syracuse has seen me grow up. You know, like I was definitely downstairs when I was like a toddler. And so all these people that I'm preparing nowadays have seen me grow up and stuff. So I even like embalmed my second grade teacher, you know, like
Wow.
very, very interesting.
How has that been to be embalming people that you've known for your whole life?
It's surreal. But again, I feel better knowing that I'm taking care of them and, you know, doing them justice. Because my second grade teacher was a firecracker. She was a firecracker. So many good memories of her class. So while I was embalming her, I was just kind of going through those in my brain and like just kind of chuckling to myself about them. But yeah.
I have to say your approach to this as a way to honor people that have passed on and really being dedicated to doing them justice is really making me feel emotional. I'm thinking of my own dad and just like hoping that he was in the hands of somebody who viewed this job in such honorific terms.
I'm sure that he was. I mean, there's a lot of good, trustworthy funeral directors out there, and I just want to remind people of that too. Like, you know, you can see like the horror story in the news, and it's so easy to just have your brain jump to conclusions that we're all just there to take advantage of you, but that is not true. I want everyone to be prepared. I want everyone to know what they're looking for. I want them to have the tools to shop around if they need to. You can do that, absolutely. Like, you know, find your funeral home and your funeral director that you feel comfortable with. And, you know, and even if you got like a bad vibe from a funeral home, you have every right to switch to another funeral home. Know that you have rights. And that's the whole point of the TikTok, is to give people the tools to be prepared. Whether or not they like it, they're there. So yeah, death care workers are some of the strongest people I know, and some of the funniest people I know too. So
Do you feel like that humor comes from being confronted with kind of, I don't know, being in this space so much you have to kind of be light?
yeah, definitely. And like I have a morbid sense of humor. I know I can't always pull it out and use that, but we like to have fun. You know, you have to think about it. We're trapped in the prep room for a good chunk of the day, depending on the week, you know, and you're just there. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, if I didn't have music, like I have to listen to music in the embalming room, and I'll put my headphones on and stuff too if I want to get into some music that I think that like maybe they wouldn't appreciate. But music keeps me so motivated and so positive, just gets me motivated to keep on trucking, and really like lifts my mood. So
I like the mental image of you with headphones on, rocking out under all your PPE while you're, like delicately manicuring somebody.
I'd be lying if I'd be lying if I said that I'm not just like body rolling from time to time. Like if my favorite song comes on, I'm gonna be like, ooh, 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 like maybe a little like shoulder dance or something. Nothing too extreme, but I'll be like, oh, I love this song. Don't you love this song?
Yeah, I love that connection you have with the person that you're there with too. I mean, it must be so intimate too. I mean, you're, working on somebody's body in such an intimate way. I mean, do you feel like that's an intimate connection with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not always, but there are like certain people that I feel like a weird connection to, and I might not even like really know them at all, but like my heart feels more connected to them, and maybe it's just like a situation of like how they died. I'm like when I am embalming them, like maybe I don't necessarily know their name if dad didn't tell me,
Mm.
because not everyone comes from the hospital with like a toe tag that says their name. Like um, if you came from a home removal, they died at home, then you wouldn't have any of that on you, and maybe I don't know who you are, but here you are, and we're here together.
Yeah. My understanding is that you have some really specific requests for when you eventually pass away.
Yes. I would either like to be cremated, or I either want my body to be broken down through alkaline hydrolysis or water cremation. That's not legal in the state of New York yet. I hope that we have more options by the time I leave this earth. But either way, I would like my remains put in some kind of disco ball monument, whether that be like, I don't know, like a concrete monument sphere that Neil puts little mirrors all over, or if it's just like the one that I made for my cats. I don't care. I just want to be in a disco ball.
I love that. Why a disco ball? Is there a certain meaning there, or you just like the
I
sparkle?
just So my name's Eileen. It means light. Have always been fascinated by like things that catch the light, or like the rainbow cling on the windows that everyone has. I love sparkles. I'm a very Dad and I aren't your like typical funeral directors. We're a bit more bubbly than most. And I like to have fun. And I am a huge dancer and I love disco. So, yeah, disco ball, earn.
That's wonderful. You're making me feel like I want to be creative now. Like I need to make my dreams bigger.
It's either that or, when I was in New Orleans, I saw these like mounds that basically looked like hobbit homes. And I also was like, that could be an option. Like, make me a little hobbit house, like Bilbo's, and like a hobbit house mausoleum. That'd be really cool. And then you could like go in there and have tea with me.
I love that.
I think it'd be so cute. We need to get more creative with our death plans.
Yes, I think so. I think a lot of people are going to feel inspired. And where can people find you if they want to keep up with your amazing videos?
If they want to keep up with my videos, the best place to do that is on TikTok. My handle is at Hollis Funeral Home. It's just the name of our funeral home. And it's the same thing on Instagram too, if people want to keep track of us there.
And any final thoughts about the future or that you want to share or make sure that our listeners hear?
I'm happy that we chatted. This was so nice and almost like healing, like I got a little bit of a release, which was great because we have such a busy week ahead of us. So, and just like in general, I will always do my best to keep it real and not sugarcoat things like too much,
I think we need more of that in every aspect of like this space, maybe just in our human lives in general.
I felt so safe. Thank you.
I'm so happy to hear that. It's been really wonderful. And I hope maybe we get to talk in the future again down the road. So.
You've been listening to Ugly Cry. In our next episode, we talk to Michelle, a woman who's found love again after being widowed by her first husband. Be sure you subscribe to our channel wherever you like to listen to podcasts so that you don't miss it. And leave us a rating if you're enjoying demystifying this world alongside us.